when will you fire off your first rocket, and where will you send it to?
I will fight from Lusaka, and it will go straight to the moon.
We are put in groups, Group A, Group B, and Group C. You have to go under Elieso.
I saw wisdom in Mr. Nkoloso, our hero.
For me, Edward Mukuka is inspiring in the sense that the year of which he had such a huge dream, it was just highly impossible to think like that in Zambia.
From the beginning of time, man has been fascinated by the stars. Throughout the centuries, we have looked upon them, trusted them to guide ships and ways of life. And deep within us, there has always been the desire to touch them. In the 20th century, we finally did.
Outstanding. 2 for 2.
On April 12, 1961, cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin of the Soviet Union became the first man to leave the Earth. Now the race amongst the world's nations was for who would be the first to put a man on the moon.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. And the others too.
Go up in the sky, jump up. 1, 2, 3, forward, backward, jump, go up.
Mr. Nkoloso, is this the site for your rocket launching program?
Yeah.
And could you tell me where your rocket is?
Yes, this is the rocket launching site, and my rocket is just here.
And what is the name of your organization?
The name of my organization is National Academy of Science, Space Research and Astronautical Research.
And what position do you hold in the organization?
I am the Director General of Science, Space Research and Philosophy.
And when will you fire off your first rocket, and where will you send it to?
I will fight from Lusaka, and it will go straight to the moon. It depends upon how much money I got. If I got enough funds, it would be very soon, or in the middle of 1965, if I've got enough funds. But if not, well, it will have to make me delay longer.
And what do you think the reaction of America and Russia will be to Zambia's joining in the space race?
Or they'll be only surprised because they will find that we're just, they will underestimate our resources plus the intelligence, but I'm sure we are catching them.
And so here at an abandoned farmhouse not far from Lusaka, we have a youthful group of budding astronauts playing at entering Zambia for the world's space race. However, to most Zambians, these people are just a bunch of crackpots, and from what I have seen today, I'm inclined to agree.
Edward Mukuka Nkoloso was of course not taken seriously by the world that saw this news report and read his story. But was he really the crackpot that he was made out to be? Who was this man, and what is his story?
Well, for me, Edward Mukuka is inspiring in the sense that the year of which he had such a huge dream, it was just highly impossible to think like that in Zambia.
The first time that I heard of him, it was when I saw the clip on YouTube. It was almost like a spoof. At first I was kind of caught in between, wondering whether this was a real dream, a real attempt. After watching the clip, I couldn't figure it out, especially the last comment by the presenter, which was very demeaning. Or, you know, he passed a comment which kind of ridiculed the entire, you know, efforts.
Because once we look at his son, we'll give you proper history. He's now a big man. I'm sure he was following what was his father doing during the struggle. He's the perfect man to give you all these answers.
I'm the firstborn son to the late Comrade Edward Mukuka Nkoloso. Or I can just say comrade, veteran, war veteran, freedom fighter, my father, a hero.
September 1939, the German foe begins its ruthless march of conquest and sets the stage for World War II. On September 1st, Danzig is incorporated into the Reich, and all Europe is aflame. World War II is a reality.
The outbreak of World War II in 1939 was felt even in far-off Zambia, which was at the time a British colony. The British recruited young African men to fight in the King's African Rifles Unit to protect their colonial lands. Nkoloso was one of them.
There was an army call-up in 1939 to 45, Second World War. So the British people called up those students. So he was one of them. There, he prayed the law as a sergeant signals. You know, by that time it was under colonial.
World War II ended in 1945. The world was once again a safe place, but not for all. Nkoloso and other African soldiers had helped free Europe, but in their own homes, freedom was still a dream.
You were promised that when you come back by the British, we are going to give you your country, because it was colonized by them. So when they came back with his colleagues, the survivors, soldiers, the British people, they changed mind. My father and other war veterans, they asked the British people, you promised us that after we helped you to fight the fascism, Hitler, you are going to give our country. So what's happening?
Upon his return, he became a language translator for the Northern Rhodesian government. He was also a science teacher by profession. However, after disagreements with the education authorities, he opened a school to teach his own brand of science.
He used to teach science, mathematics, and religious. That's what he used to, but especially science. I was very much interested in science.
The colonial government was quick to close it. Nkoloso turned to politics and for the next 10 years fought against colonialism. Due to his activities, the British colonial government banished Nkoloso to his home area in northern Zambia.
He was applying science even for doing some revolution. He was applying science, making bombs and some other things, telling those people there to attack. He was applying science, you know. So until from there, he was arrested and detained from 1956 to 1957. From there, they deported him at home, Northern Province, at his village. He continued. He never stopped. He started teaching the chiefs and everybody were there, Kapaus and villagers. He formed up in groups.
In a magazine interview some years later, Nkoloso spoke about his capture.
The government said I was very explosive. I remember that day with pride. The day the letters PG for prison graduate was scratched with a pin on my chest, and then the same letters were inscribed with my own blood on a piece of prison toilet paper. I bought 40 hurricane lamps and organized my own psychological warfare.
Preaching nationalism, Nkoloso finally emerged as the national steward for the United National Independence Party, led by Zambia's future first president, Kenneth Kaunda. Nkoloso's appearance as the fiery and hairy freedom fighter added color to the platforms of big rallies. In today's Zambia, the freedom fighter is known more for his space project than anything else.
That is truly Zambian mentality. You see, but you got to admire his spirit, because he was that focused and he was that committed. Who knows, he might have been the first.
It seems pretty crazy considering the lack of technology and stuff in the country, but nothing should ever stop you from trying to achieve your dreams and everything.
In 1960, Nkoloso began his academy. The institute he set up was called National Academy of Science, Space Research and Philosophy. The academy's motto was, "Where fate and human glory lead, we are always there." His intention through the academy was to achieve space travel. Nkoloso recruited 10 young men and a teenage girl by the name of Martha Mwamba. He would train them to be astronauts, or as he called them, Afronauts, short for African astronauts. The Afronauts were put through harsh routines and training to prepare them for their future flights. Zambia was finally in the space race. Nkoloso set up a facility 7 miles from Lusaka where the Afronauts would train and he would teach them the principles of spaceflight.
We are put in groups, Group A, Group B, and Group C. You have to go under a lieso, you know. You have to wear protection clothes, e.g. helmet, canvas, and overalls. Then they put you in a drum. Then they push it. Then it rolls. You are inside. You are doing this. Then they say, come out. Then you come out. But if you are this, you can't do the rehearsals. Then you are disqualified. After that process, it's now we go for classes. In the bush, they put a piece of cloth, and then from there they start writing, telling us about the star, the moon. After that, then so go and do now practical. If you fail practical, then you can't.
Crowds would gather to witness the training. Cuthbert Kolala, a freedom fighter, remembers seeing one of the famous drum rolls.
Yes, as young as I was, I never met him, but I saw his wisdom when he made a drum. And he went into the drum, put it on the handtail, and rode with him. It was so exciting. People clapped. And I also clapped, even though I was not nearer. It was in Lusaka, among the compounds, where he did that demonstration.
Apart from the training, Nkoloso was also hard at building flight capsules and rockets that were used to carry out his experiments on spaceflight. According to him, his designs were fine, and the only challenge he faced was what he would use to fuel his rocket.
The big trouble is propulsion. There was a trial launching of the Cyclops capsule using an African firing system, the Mukwa system, which was basically a catapult. The craft rose to an estimated altitude of 3 meters. I am now experimenting along new lines.
His lack of rocket fuel forced him to try and get help from the Russians and Americans, whom he had earlier accused of having sent spies to steal his technology. The Russians were approached to provide fuel for the rockets. With the Americans, he proposed a combined effort that would bring American technology and Zambian knowledge. This, in his mind, would place a Zambian and an American on the moon. Nkoloso's only request was that when the moon landing was successful, the Zambian flag would be the first to go up.
He had intelligence, had intelligence given from God. Now the whites, they are jealous. Say, how could this person have this thing? They wanted to find out from him. And those people who are not learned, they are mistaking that, no, he's mad, he's confused, he's a lunatic, something like that. But they didn't understand him. But to him, he was telling us, especially me, was telling me. I could ask him, Father, why are these things? He said, no, my son, this thing is a gift from God. So which are now showing, explaining to people, so that you know. These Americans, they are not the greatest. He was even telling us those Afronauts.
I saw wisdom in Mr. Nkoloso, our hero, that if given resources, today we'll be talking about we are in the moon, exploring.
He was even challenging it. If a bird can fly, why can't you? Then the others were said, no, we don't have wings. Others, no, we are that and things. Then he said, no, you have got brains. You have got brains. That thing was created by God. Even if you are created by God, you can do it.
From his academy, he claimed to have studied the planets through telescopes and was convinced that Mars held life. This prompted him to set his sights on a mission to Mars. At the same time, the independence struggle was drawing to a close. Zambia would be granted her independence on the 24th of October 1964. Nkoloso decided that the nation's Day of Freedom would also be the day that mankind traveled to Mars. Unfortunately for him, the soon-to-be government of the day didn't share in his dream. A series of performances and cultural exhibitions lined up to celebrate the birth of Zambia were meant to display the pride of the people. Nkoloso's rocket launch would not be a part of it. The Independence Day Celebration Committee felt the rocket inappropriate. Nkoloso did, however, attend the celebration in full uniform. Despite not being given the chance to have a national launch, a rocket was set up on a hill just outside Independence Stadium.
It was a great day, and people were very happy and excitement. But after shooting that, it used to call Dikalo 1. That's the name of the rocket, Dikalo 1, meaning David Kaunda, first president. After displaying that Dikalo 1 on Independence Day, 24th October, 12 midnight, when the Union flag was coming, the Zambian flag was going up there. So those people were there, they were very happy, others were scared. Maybe we are dying. He said, no, we are not dying. This is a challenge to the white people. That we people here, we know science, we are educated, not only you whites. So this is the thing we are showing you.
Has President Kaunda given permission for your project, and has the Zambian government approved of it?
Not as yet, but they have taken interest in seeing what I'm doing, because this is a novelty, some things new in this country.
After independence, Nkoloso would not give up. He still believed that his mission to Mars would happen. His lack of the necessary funding to take his vision to the next level caused him to seek help from UNESCO. Nkoloso wrote a letter requesting a funding of £7 million. No response came. But what does it cost to actually achieve a space mission?
The money, $2.5 billion. We don't put it in the rover and send it to Mars. We spend it here on Earth.
Spacecraft stand as high as a 36-story building, and at liftoff weigh more than a U.S. Navy destroyer. Its Earth orbital payload is 10 tons greater than John Glenn's entire Mercury Atlas space vehicle of 1962.
The average cost of a piloted rocket mission in the 1960s was about $1.3 billion. It isn't clear as to why Nkoloso settled on £7 million. Maybe it was a humble estimate or a very calculated one. In November of 1964, a news crew from ITN came to film what is now the most visual moment of Nkoloso's attempts at spaceflight. It is this film that has formed the image of a madman. Determined to succeed, he wrote an article in his own words on the belief in achieving the impossible.
I see the Zambia of the future as a space-age Zambia, more advanced than Russia or America. In fact, in my Academy of Scientists, our thinking is 6 or 7 years ahead of both powers. If I had had my way, Zambia would have been born with the blast of the Academy's rocket being launched into space. But the Independence Celebrations Committee said that would terrify the guest and possibly the whole population. I think they were worried about the dust and noise. It's a great pity. All is ready at our secret headquarters in a valley about 7 miles from Lusaka. The rocket could have been launched from Independence Stadium, and Zambia would have conquered Mars only a few days after independence. Yes, that's where we plan to go. Mars.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
On the 21st of July, 1969, the United States of America landed a man on the moon. The race was over. The energy Nkoloso had to touch the stars seemed to slow down after this event. As the years went by, frustration and unbelief began to creep into the academy. The Afronauts began to leave. Space girl Martha Mwamba got pregnant and her parents would not let her continue with the program. Others left to seek employment. Nkoloso's son would not follow in his father's footsteps. He instead chose to become an archivist with the Zambian government, most likely in the hope of preserving his father's legacy. Nkoloso turned his attention to local and regional politics. In Lusaka, he ran for mayor. He planned to turn the capital city into a world-class center of science and architectural splendor if elected. In the region, he was at the heart of Zambia's aid to her neighbors who were not yet independent. President Kaunda made Nkoloso his personal representative at Liberation Center, the headquarters for all freedom movements based in Zambia.
Pamene wanankhala appointed as a chief representative, siwanali bantu baja bofuna kuti bazionekera mu ma newspapers machiani kulingana ni ntchito yamene anali nayo. Inali ntchito ya secret. Banali uchita chabe report kwa president kukafunika zochita report.
A soldier, teacher, scientist, and liberator. His achievements on the battlefield and in the corridors of knowledge would not go unnoticed. Nkoloso would enroll in the University of Zambia and on the 5th of November 1983, at the age of 59, graduate with a law degree. It's not quite clear when his attempts at spaceflight stopped, but he would always be reminded of his dream. On occasion, media reports would speak of his academy and the Afronauts, bringing his story back into the light. Russia would honor him with the medal of the 40th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War of 1941 at a ceremony in Moscow. 4th March 1989, Mukuka Nkoloso passed away after developing health complications earlier that year. He was given a state funeral. Soon-to-be president of Namibia, Sam Nujoma, had this to say of Nkoloso.
It is not only Zambia that has lost, but the whole of Africa. Speaking on behalf of the liberation movements, let me thank the government for giving this befitting send-off for a man who distinguished himself as a great freedom fighter. Oh, how I wish he could remain alive and see the independence of Namibia, which is inevitable. I say to this great son of Africa that the struggle continues and victory is certain.
The world created by the internet, in which a simple video can create excitement, trends and great debate, the story of Mukuka Nkoloso would continue to live on and find new life.
The people that were taking that video didn't take him seriously, but they documented that, and now we can see that someone in the past thought that way and took it upon themselves to do it, even though he didn't get any help from the government or anyone. He took it upon himself and the people he was working with, and he had a dream, and that's enough, I think, just having that dream.
Apart from being a great visionary, I think he was a philosopher. He was he was a political activist. He was someone a teacher. Very educated, and I guess a true Zambian at heart, because he had this great vision about this country.
Every dream is possible. So it might have seemed out of state at the time, but somebody else should pick up on that and carry on with it and say, why can't an African country decide that we're going to send somebody to space?
The story of Edward Mukuka Nkoloso is far from over. Across the world, his dream continues to influence. Recently, Spanish photojournalist Cristina de Midel used this story as the basis for her book, Afronauts, in which she rebuilds the story and adapts it to her personal imagery. Francis Bodomo, a filmmaker from Ghana, made a film on the Afronauts, focusing on Martha Mwamba's role in the space program.
You saw me standing alone, without a dream in my heart.
I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month.
As long as a man can dream, he will continue to push forward and expand what we think is possible. There is no concrete evidence of what Mukuka Nkoloso's technology was, but the evidence of his boldness and ambition cannot be ignored. He may not have made it to the moon, but he did journey into the hearts and minds of the human race. In a time when Africa was finding its feet, he attempted to give it wings. Mukuka Nkoloso once said, "Look at that tree. Because I can see the tree, I can go to the tree." It's the same with the moon.